my commenter cap. Maybe I just need to rock with it. Maybe I just need to let it be messed up and be crazy. Maybe that's the solution. Is that the solution? Is it working? It's a live stream. It's a live stream. It's a live stream. With professional atheist, absolutely not. But with a person who's here saying things and stuff and whatnot. It's been a fun week. A thing happened last Tuesday. That was great. For the 2024 election last Tuesday, that was great. I don't feel like this camera's. I am a never mind. If I can't say the word professional, maybe, just maybe, I'm not a professional. It's interesting to me, I made a post today asking if there's any good reason to be against gay marriage that doesn't involve ignorance or bigotry. And for the most part, the answers I got were either no, there's not a good reason to be against it, or answers fueled by ignorance and bigotry, which kind of answers the question. I feel like it is what it is. It is what it is. Let's see what kind of comments we have. I'm not prepared for this live. Am I ever prepared for a live? Absolutely never. Oh, yeah, I had somebody in my comments. Oh, I need to find this comment because it confused the hell out of me. Where was it? It was threads. Gosh, where am I? Somebody said, I asked, I said, before you quote the Bible to me, demonstrate that what it says is true and that I should care. Otherwise, it's just words. Because it is. It is. If you can't speak about the Bible as if it's some divine truth or something that anyone should care about, if you can't prove that it's true. Because then how do I know it's true? It might not be. And somebody commented, there is truth, and then in parentheses they put facts, and then there is truth with a capital T. And I said, please explain. And he said, in this age of science and reasoning, our modern minds equate facts with truth. If something is not factual, then it is also untrue. But there are truths, capital T, that cannot be proven by science. I am not a biblical literalist and will say that it is, nor will I say it's inerrant, but it contains truths, capital T. The thing with that, and that just got me thinking, because they're trying to say something profound, they're trying to do something there, but the thing is, what is truth? What is true and what is factual is true and factual regardless of whether or not we can prove it. So it doesn't matter if it can be proven by science or it'll ever be proven by science, or if it hasn't been proven by science yet. What is true and what is facts is what is true and what is facts, at least with certain instances. Jim Halpert from The Office, is that you? No, I'm not that cute. I'm not even cute at all, I don't think. So they're trying to distinguish that some truths cannot be proven by science. That's fine, or at least cannot be proven by science yet, and that's fine. But that doesn't make them not be true. I feel like people try to make things a little bit more deeper than perhaps they should be. People also ask why I care about what the Bible says if I don't believe in it. When I make my content, usually I'm talking about two different areas. It's whether a God is real. I usually focus on the Christian God. Whether a God is real, whether there is a God, whether this book is what it wants from us or what it divinely inspired or whatever. That's one. And the second thing I like to talk about is if I should follow this God. So when I make posts, like when I make posts about God condoning slavery, people say, why would you even care anyway? You don't even think it's real. I don't believe that the Bible has been inspired by God. But I'm saying if this God is real, and for those who do believe it's real, why are you following that? Why are you following the God of genocides and slavery and misogyny and child abuse? So those are like the two things that it never fails. A lot of people like to be like, well, why do you care about what the Bible says? I don't. You do. Other people care and think that this is the greatest religion that ever was, and this God is good and they should follow it no matter what. This God drowns babies. So I'm just saying, if you believe in this God, should you really follow it? Should you really be following it? Hello. Because a lot of people think, and a lot of people will make a similar argument of like, if God were to prove himself to you, then that would take away free will, because then you would have to follow him. No, I wouldn't. I would not have to follow him. And I would not choose to follow him, unless he is going to violate my free will. But other than that, he's not gonna, I wouldn't follow the Christian God even if he was proven to be real. And I care about what is true, what is real. I would like to know if the Christian God is real or not. And if he is real, if that is a truth, if that is a fact, I can't do anything about it. I can't do anything about it. But that doesn't mean I'm going to follow him, and that doesn't mean I have to follow him. Somebody also, in my Pascal's Wager video, I recently, my painted fingernails, I wanted to paint them something brighter. Usually it's either black or it's blue, and I wanted something brighter, so it's blue. I'm pretty basic. I think those are the only two colors that I do. In my Pascal's Wager video, somebody commented they're going to pretend to be a good Christian so that they can get into heaven and overthrow God. And it just reminds me of my contingency plan, if God and Satan are real. So follow along with me. And before you say this is nonsense, I believe you, because I don't think any of it's real. But, bear with me. If God is real and Satan is real, all that stuff, I'm going to hell when I die, which is what it is. And when I'm there, I'm going to overthrow Satan or join forces with him and raise up an army to go up against heaven and defeat God. I'm going to defeat God and Satan, and we're going to set up a new system that works better. I haven't gotten that far in this completely stupid hypothetical plan. But my reasoning is like, we know that Satan can be defeated, because if Christianity is true, then he was defeated. There was a great battle between the forces of God and Satan up in heaven when Lucifer rebelled, and he lost. And that's great. So I know he can be defeated. I think maybe, hello, my love. I think maybe God might be able to be beaten. Because the lore of Christianity is that there was a great battle. Lucifer rose up with a third of heaven's angels and fought against God. And there was a great battle. God didn't just snap his fingers and make him go away. There was a great battle. Yes, Lucifer lost, because God's overpowered, but there was a battle that he actually had to fight, which makes me think that maybe, just maybe, if we keep pushing, we might be able to overthrow and defeat God. Because, we'll be eternal beings, What's he going to do? Send us to hell? In this plan, if I can get out of hell, then I'll just get right back out, that's fine. So we have eternity, and we can just rally all of our forces together and defeat God. I probably can't kill him if he's immortal, but we can defeat him and overthrow him. Hello, kitten. So that's my contingency plan, if the Christian God is real. And I don't take it very seriously because I don't believe in it. I know we can defeat Godzilla. I'm sure we can defeat Godzilla. We just need a lot of fish. We need a lot of fish. That's a lot of fish. That's a lot of fish. That's a lot of fish. There's got to be hundreds of eggs. Thousands of eggs. Stop counting. Somebody asked, how would I like God to be demonstrated, or the truth of the Bible to be demonstrated? I don't know. I mean, I think those two questions go hand in hand. You know, how can we demonstrate the Bible is true? I honestly am not entirely sure. Um, if the prophecies, if the prophecies were a little bit more clear, like if they had prophecies that weren't so open to interpretation and just ambiguous, that were prophesied and came true, that would be impressive. And they would have to be prophecies that can't be recreated by humans. It can't be like, you know, this nation's going to start a war against this nation, because then somebody 2,000 years down the line can be like, hey, I rule this nation. I'm going to fulfill the prophecy and go to war against the nation. It can't be something that humans can do. And it's got to be specific, because the Bibles, especially like the end time prophecies in the Bible, are way too ambiguous and open to interpretation. And people have been guessing that those prophecies have been coming true for the last, I don't even know, at least hundreds of years, and the world hasn't ended yet. And the same prophecies have been like, it's this is a fulfillment of this prophecy, and then like 100 years later, no, this is a fulfillment of that prophecy, and then 100 years later, no, this is a fulfillment of that prophecy. So nobody really knows what they're doing, because God didn't make the Bible clear, even though it says in the Bible it's so clear, it's so clear. I've had Christians lead me on full on national treasure, you know, code breaking. If you could look at this verse in the Bible, and then you go look at this verse in the Bible, and then you go to this website, and then you go back to this verse, and then you go back to this other website, and then you look at what this dude did in this time, it's like, bro, if it's so clear, if it's so obvious, if the word of God is just so clear and obvious like it's supposed to be, and we are without excuse, you know, everything is so obvious. Why is step one steal the Declaration of Independence? Why am I hacking into the Pentagon in order to crack what God says about this? It's just, it's weird to me that people do that, because the Bible's just, it's just kind of a mess. Maybe if it was a little bit, I mean, maybe if it was a little bit better put together. I don't know. Is that's a good question, because you wouldn't want it too well put together, because then it's like, this is obviously fake. Because I mean, people wrote the Harry Potter books and the Lord of the Rings books, and you know, they're better coherent put together. Um, if we, you know, we're going with the whole stories slapped together, which is the Bible, is different stories slapped together that create a whole narrative. That's fine, and it's okay if it doesn't like flow perfectly, if there's a little bit of humanity in it, you know, brokenness and a little awkwardness. But the Bible's just a little too much of a mess. Just a little too much of a mess. So yeah, I don't know. I think better prophecies would really, really sell the Bible for me, or at least get me a good portion of the way there. Like if it just had some, or like if I read it and I started glowing, you know, like something like weird and magical. And as far as proving a God exists, I don't know. I don't know, but like he should. An all powerful God, an all knowing God should know what it would take to convince me that he exists. An all powerful God should be able to do whatever it takes to convince me he exists, especially if he knows that I want to know if he exists or not, because I do. And an all loving God would want to get me that information, would want to let me know that he exists. And since he hasn't, I don't really know. Christ is king. Yeah, I'm gonna overthrow that monarchy. You just give me another like 80 years or so if I make it that long. Hello. Boo. We're talking about overthrowing God. I don't think we can kill him because like he's immortal or whatever, but like I think we could beat him. I think we could beat my favorite topic. And then there's people like this who just, I get really, 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 really tired of explaining basic looking for basic definitions of stuff. Like someone coming in, atheists believe there's no possibility of a God existing. No. Maybe there are some, but atheism is just the lack of belief in a God. It's not claiming that there is no God. It's not claiming that there can't be a God. It's just, I don't believe. That's really all it is. I think God can be defeatable. My idea was like if I die and like the Christian God's real or whatnot, I'm gonna go to hell, and that's great. I can lead an uprising in hell because I know Satan can be beaten, or I could join forces with him and beat him later because God beat him when he rebelled. So like I know Satan can be beaten, and we can find our way up to heaven. I haven't fleshed it out all the way, but I think we can then fight against God and overthrow him because in the battle between God and Lucifer, it was a great battle. It was a great fight. You know, when Lucifer got cast out, meaning God didn't just like wipe him off the board. It wasn't just like a boom and we're done with this fight. They actually had to like fight, which means if we keep pushing, which we have eternity to do so, we have the time, and I think we'll have the numbers. We could eventually overthrow both the monarchies, the monarchs of heaven and hell. Just get rid of them all because we're just pawns in their chess game at this point, and it's really, really aggravating. And just clean slate, start something new. Can't alter the laws of logic because if he could, he would make it so that his opinion is fundamentally and objectively correct. He didn't, though. Yeah. So there could hypothetically be an entity even more powerful that he would ask to destroy him. There could be an entity more powerful. Who's powerful enough to defeat God? And why do I feel like it's a cat of sorts? I feel like only a cat has that kind of like confidence and that kind of, I'm more powerful than a god. I am your god. Uh, I feel like it's got to be. I'm just scrolling through comments at this point. I didn't really come prepared for any. I never come prepared for the lives, but like I didn't come like extra became extra. Extra came not prepared. Came extra not prepared. God has been shown to not be above lying to us. So when he says he's the most powerful, that can just as easily be a lie. It can just as easily be a lie. It absolutely can't be. Oh, somebody was asking me. So there are two things that I kind of want to make videos about, but I don't have anything to say in the video. So, someone commented, research. Hello. Someone commented to research the Shroud of Turin. Turin. I suck at names and pronouncing stuff. Forgive me. The Shroud of Turin. And if you research that, and you're not convinced, then you're just intellectually dishonest. First off, it's not intellectual dishonesty if you research something and don't reach a conclusion. But second, Shroud of Turin is one of those weird things, and I keep seeing. It's also one of those. It's one of those things that both sides of the argument won't shut up. Because I scroll and I just find articles like of all the Christians gathering up all the good arguments defending it, and then another article with all the atheists with good arguments against it. And it's just like, both of you shut up, give me I just need the evidence, So it's weeding through all that, there's some good information and some bad information. There's some interesting stuff about it, I guess. And there's also just some weird stuff like, we carbon dated it, and it says it comes from medieval times. Well, what if it was just repaired and that cloth is from medieval times? I don't fucking know, like maybe a giant rainbow space cat came down and pooped out the shroud. I have no idea, but it is one of those things. It's interesting. I'm not convinced, but it's just with a God belief. I'm not convinced that it's not anything. However, would the Shroud of Turin prove anything about the divinity of Christ, even if it was the burial shroud of Christ? Would it prove anything about the divinity? Somebody could have just gone in and taken it off his body. We got because that's always another issue altogether. The historical Jesus, was he a real person? Did he exist? Maybe he could have. Again, that's another one of those arguments I've kind of seen back and forth. I don't have an issue believing that he actually existed, but then you got to prove that he was something special, that he was divine, that he was God. And a lot of Christians don't get to that step. They just say, look at the historical records, all of this. So he did exist. Okay, cool. Is he God, though? Does that make him God, though? I think if there is to be a more powerful being, it has to be the first mover, the being that set everything in motion, something that facilitated the existence of God. Yeah, but then what facilitated the existence of it? Because then when now we're just pushing back we're just kicking the can down the road. There's actually an anime out there called Undead Unluck with the premise of killing God. Nice. Then there's a papyrus scroll from ancient Egypt that claims to depict the events of Exodus, which from what I've seen of it, it doesn't. It kind of just doesn't. It's about some hard times and whatnot. Not really anything to the scale of what we see in Exodus. But it is something interesting, it is something kind of cool to look at. And that's another one of those things where I keep seeing, Christian websites be like, it says this, this, and this, and that means that this, and this. And then the same thing with atheist websites. It's like, can I read it? Can I read it? Like a translation, obviously. I don't speak or read ancient Egyptian, but like, can I just like read a That's like, I hate having to dig through bias. I hate, because Christian community and atheist community can both be awful with it and just spouting one-sidedness. Like, all right, both of you shut up. Let me read the scroll. What does the scroll say? Let me think for myself, please. So those are some interesting arguments that people have brought up. And like, I don't make a video. I don't usually engage with commenters hardly at all. So I don't really engage with them anyway. I don't make videos, and I don't want anyone to think that I'm like avoiding it. I just don't really know how many thoughts I have on it, or if I have anything conclusive or impressive or informative to say about the matter. There's a concept known as supernatural, which means which means an supra-rational, which means an order of reason and logic that supersedes the logic we can currently use. A being that subscribes to a higher order of reason could do it. Supra-rational. I can't read. I got there. Maybe. And that's always the thing, it's, well, we can't figure out, we can't see God through modern science because he exists, outside, beyond time and space, and he plays by different rules and stuff. And that's great, and I might be willing to grant that, but if we can't measure that something else, I have no reason to believe it's there. You can, it's the simulation theory. There could be something greater out there that we just can't even measure. Sure. But until we can measure it, I have no reason to believe it. How do I know it's there? How can I believe it? That becomes the issue. I'm not closed off to anything. I'm not closed off to the flying spaghetti monster. Maybe there is a flying spaghetti monster. Maybe there's a teacup orbiting the planet or whatever. If I don't have reason to believe it, that's really all it is. I get so many people, in my comments, you just deny the evidence, you just reject it, you move the goalpost. It's like, no, my goalpost is just sitting here. It's rusty. It's sinking into the ground. It hasn't moved. It's just begging. It's begging, and I'm begging next to it for someone to make a goal in however football works. I'm not a sports person. But for someone to, get there, I'm not moving it. I haven't moved it. It just, I've had arguments, both when I was a Christian and an atheist, and just a theist, that I thought were like rock solid, and that I held on to for a minute, and I thought like this, no one could beat this, and then I came across an argument that shattered it. So it's like, I understand when people, and I probably still do this. I hope not, and I hope people shatter it if I ever do. But I understand when there's people saying like, no, this evidence I just gave you is good evidence. It's the best evidence. You can't fight it. You're just denying it. I understand you think that, but is it? And if we look at X, Y, and Z. That's why I also love making this content, because I can bounce ideas off of other people. You need more information. And I love watching debates and other content creators, Christian and atheist, say stuff, because it gives me new ideas. If you just stick in your own head, all that stuff just becomes stale and recycled, and you're sticking and refortifying terrible ideas because you don't have any new information to back to go against it or anything. So you gotta expand yourself out. You gotta watch other content. You gotta talk to other people, bounce ideas, and if you're wrong, oh well. If you're wrong, great. If you put ideas out into the world and someone comes over and proves you wrong, great. Because guess what? Now you can be right. Or at least maybe a step closer. Or at the very least, you can let go of a wrong idea. You know, if I'm ever wrong about something, I would love to be proven wrong. I would love to be shown how I'm wrong. I would love someone to argue against me, to tell me that I'm wrong, to explain it. I am not the highest end all be all. I am not up on some pedestal. I'm not full of pride or anything like that. I'm not. I'm just a dude asking questions that don't have good answers. You know, that's all I'm doing. It is impossible to truly disprove the existence of a God because it is unfalsifiable, meaning that it cannot be proven false. There's always another hypothetical idea of what God is like. Yeah, there is always. And then I always mention, all the different varieties of a God, all the different denominations and people within denominations, just the multitude of different ideas of what God is and what He wants. But then something that always interests me is there are people who believe in a God that is not described in a book or by a religion. They just kind of believe they have this connection with like their own personal God. And I think that's even worse. Usually those people are a little bit more, not forceful and chill about their beliefs. But it's one thing if you read a book, like if you're a Christian and you're following the Bible, even if you're misinterpreting, reinterpreting, whatever else, interpreting it wrong or whatever, you at least have subject matter to go off of. If you have your own unique God, where are you pulling these ideas out of in this information? And some people claim to have direct communication with this God that they believe in, while other people claim to have direct communication with God and Allah and Vishnu and whatever else. It's like, and all these other gods that you haven't even heard of. And other people claim to have interactions with the God of the Bible. There are different people who claim to have interactions with the Christian God, but He gives them different answers. So it's going back to just relying on your own head and your own information just isn't the way to go. I was actually talking about what evidence would it take for you to believe in a God or the Bible, like the prophecies of Jesus Christ in the Old Testament. Would you take these as evidence? The prophecies in the Old Testament, absolutely not, because it's unless you can prove that these things happened as they did, unless you can prove that somebody actually prophesied something hundreds or however many years before Jesus came about and got it right, it really looks like, from my perspective, that we just kind of have a chapter 1 somebody writes down that something's going to happen, and then somebody else in chapter 2, with the knowledge of chapter 1, writes down that thing happening. We also have the fact that the Bible's been changed and it's been retranslated and mistranslated and reinterpreted and misinterpreted, and verses and texts and books have been added and subtracted throughout time. And sometimes it does seem like some of these prophecies are just kind of shoehorned in, like they've just been added, like they weren't, naturally a part of the text. So the Old Testament prophecies, I have nothing for it, especially because we can't prove that any of it even really happened at all to begin with. I think before you can prove that God of the Bible is true, you have to prove that it isn't false. There are numerous findings that contradict the Bible. This is true. Isaiah 53 is a prophecy of Jesus Christ before 700 years before he was even born. Is it, though? Is it really, though? For the reasons I just stated. Is it? And going to prophecies, I mentioned earlier, a prophecy would have to be something specific happening. Something specific, unique, detail-oriented, that cannot be reproduced by humans. And something extraordinary. Because what we have, apart from, the what I call the internal prophecies, the Old Testament prophesying the New Testament, we also have what I call external prophecies, like the end time prophecies, in the New Testament, prophesying off yonder. And a lot of people think that these prophecies and predictions are coming true, but the problem is we've been doing this for hundreds of years, maybe even the last 2,000 years since Jesus has been here. And people keep saying, oh, this is the prophecy is coming true, this prophecy is coming true, this prophecy is coming true. And those prophecies are just too ambiguous. They're too broad and open to interpretation. And so people just keep plugging and twisting, and in the same prophecy, people say, this is the prediction of this, the coming about of this prophecy. And then 100 years later, it's like, no, this is the coming about of that prophecy. Nobody really knows what they're talking about because they're not clear, direct, specific, detail-oriented prophecies that cannot be reproduced by humans. None of the evidence that point in favor of a thing being true is irrelevant if there are things that prove it false. I can agree. Evidence in favor could be evidence in favor of something similar, but not exactly the thing you're talking about. Dead Sea Scrolls were found with unaltered Isaiah 53 demonstrating what would happen to our Lord Jesus. Well, I haven't really studied the Dead Sea Scrolls, so I can't really verify that, but that goes back to my earlier point. Someone writing down something happening in chapter 1, and then somebody else with the knowledge of what happened and what was written in chapter 1 writing it happening in chapter 2. If you can't even demonstrate that any of it even happened to begin with, that doesn't really get us anywhere. Sure, these texts came from somewhere, and some of these texts are very old, and it doesn't surprise me that we've found older versions of some of these texts. That's fine. It's all well and good. They were all written down at some point over the course probably of thousands of years. But does that make the whole narrative true? Does the story of the Gospels, did those actually happen? Was the prophecy actually fulfilled, or did someone just write down that they were fulfilled? That's the difference, and that's the evidence that we don't really have. Oh, I made my video on what's wrong with Christianity's answers, because somebody asked, what's wrong with going with Christianity that has answers, rather than just saying, I don't know. I want to make sure the answers are real. There's a difference between having answers and having the correct answers. Just because you have answers doesn't mean those answers are correct. And if you don't have any correct answers, then you don't know. You don't know. And somebody commented, oh, but a monkey becoming a human in 1,000 years is science. Don't comment if you don't know anything. Don't comment if you don't know what you're talking about. Because monkeys didn't become humans. And the evolutionary process that got humans from our earliest common ancestor to monkeys and apes and whatnot was not 1,000 years. It's just people who just don't have the slightest clue what they're talking about. The slightest clue. I'll pray for you, brother. Well, I appreciate it. I have a lot of people praying for me. Just add it in and add your prayer to the multitude, and maybe it'll work someday. Maybe it'll work someday. Maybe I'm wrong. Who knows? I also I also get people over the years that must be hundreds of comments praying for you. Oh, there's a lot. And we're just looking at the ones who said that they've been praying. You know, the commenters and the people in my personal life even who have said. What about all the people who haven't said and are just praying? What about all of the multitudes of people who are just praying for atheists, like in general, broadly? They could go. I think I used to pray. I think I used to make a similar prayer to that. I prayed. I prayed a lot. I used to have an entire like hour-long prayer session thing every single night back when I still believed. I think I would fulfill at least one of those prayers. Well, in fairness, some atheists do become Christians, and some atheists do become Hindus, and some atheists do become Muslims. So maybe some prayer is getting answered somewhere. Who really knows? What was I going to say? What was I going to say? I don't know. Ah, one thing I just kind of want to comment on is people. Sometimes people ask what made you leave the faith and what made you stop going to church and whatnot in the same question. What made me stop going to church was just kind of shifting my view of Christianity and focusing more on the relationship with the God that I thought I had, rather than all of the uh, rules and rituals, just going along with the motions or whatever. You're a good person if you show up at this building, once a week or whatever. Because I did things in my last few years of being a Christian that people would be like, "Oh, you weren't a true Christian if you were doing those things." I wasn't a Christian who was following all of especially when I saw all just the hypocrisy and the hate going on in the different Christian denominations. I sought my own path to God. And so it was more about the relationship. It was more about just being a genuinely good person than it was, making sure you go to Mass every Sunday. I don't really hear the atheists who are actively engaged in theist discussions becoming theists. And mostly just regular individuals who just don't think about religion or God who end up turning. There was one, um, a friend of Richard Dawkins. He did a debate with her. I wish I could remember her name. Um, became Muslim, was like an atheist activist and became Muslim. And I don't think I'd heard of her before, so I don't know how like up there she was. Um, but she did, and he like I guess immediately challenged her to a debate. And it was a very like kind. You could tell like they were friends, and he still cared very deeply for her. It wasn't like he wasn't trying to just drill her into the ground or anything. Um, I would recommend trying to look that up, trying to find that. I don't know what you would type. Richard Dawkins debates his friend. I don't know. It is getting hot in here. The computer's running. Yes, I have my computer fan on. Good. I do this on I have a gaming laptop that I have all my stuff on. And gaming laptops, if you don't know, are famous for getting very, 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 very hot. They're getting famous for being very hot. There are times where I'm gaming on it where I can feel my fingers burning. It's probably not healthy, but I have to have it like elevated on this like cooling, not even a pad, just this whole cooling vent fan apparatus that I have. But it's still hot. And then like you get people who are like, well, that's in the Old Testament, and we don't follow that anymore. So like, don't worry about it. Like slavery, even though slavery is in the New Testament as well. Uh, this is like, why do you care about it? Christians don't follow that. I care about it because, going back to what I said earlier, there's is this true, and there's should you follow this God if it is. because Christians stopped doing slavery, and people stopped doing slavery. That's great. Let's keep it that way. Uh, but this God did still fully condone slavery in his book, even in the New Testament. So like, we're gonna talk. We should talk about that. I'm glad, same with mixed fabrics, same with all the different festivals. I'm glad that we've dumped certain things from the Old Testament seemingly arbitrarily, and just don't follow them anymore. I'm glad we've realized that our ideas and way of living is we're smarter and more moral than this God, and we can figure out what he actually wants us to follow and what he doesn't. Even though he said follow all of this, we can weed through based on our own mentality, our own intelligence and morals, what we should and should not follow. I'm waiting for them to do that with gay people and trans people. I'm waiting for them to add that discrimination into that pile of stuff that we don't really need to worry about anymore. That we don't really follow that anymore. I think the few cases where they do convert is due to political, cultural, or social or ideological reasons, as opposed to actually getting belief. It's possible. It's definitely possible. And I mean, there's so many different reasons for anyone to join or leave a religion. Somebody commented on one of my posts, because if you scroll through like the videos and the live streams on my channel, it's just me taking a picture of myself with like words next to it. And somebody commented, "How are you, sir? Are you looking for a professional YouTube thumbnail designer? Let me know, please. Thanks." And thanks question mark. Leave me alone. Leave me alone. I know my thumbnails don't look great. I don't try very hard. Cause I just don't see the need. I'm really just, God is real. Okay, why should I believe that? I'm not one of those people who, I don't feel the need to try to look impressive or professional. Sure, maybe it'll help, but I really just kind of try to get on this channel and get on these platforms and just kind of be me. It's like, this is what you're getting, man. I even have my gaming channel that, I haven't posted on for a few years, unfortunately, but I even have my gaming channel as a featured channel at the bottom of this channel. It's like, this is who you're speaking with. Like, before you like think I'm intelligent and put me up on a pedestal, go and like watch me play Cuphead. watch some of my compilations or whatever, and just see how dumb I am. Just like I'm not professional. I'm not anything special. You have experienced God. Okay. Yeah, we do not share your experience. So how does that help us? Was it a she or he? I don't know what you're asking. So like when I make my thumbnails, it's like, it's nothing impressive. I don't go too hard. And I don't try to make videos where it's like, this dumb thing. Or like there are some, and maybe I shouldn't laugh at this, but like there are some theists and atheists, like small content creators like my size, who will be like, the all the problems with Jordan Peterson, the dumb things about Jordan Peterson's arguments. Sit down, buddy. Jordan Peterson has been studying this stuff and doing this stuff longer than we have. You can disagree with his points, obviously, but let's just pump the brakes just a little bit. You're just coming in really, really, really hot against someone who's been in the game longer than you've been alive, probably. So it's like, let's pump the brakes just a little bit. And you can speak out against whoever you want to speak out against, and you can disagree with whoever you want to disagree with. Just the arrogance and the ego just needs to kind of just lower it down a little bit. Is a blinding light you can't look at. Okay. How do we know it isn't any number of other phenomena? Can you prove the blinding light was due to a god? Was praying to God at the time. Okay. So there's a lot of different reasons people see stuff or experience something that they interpret to be something supernatural or divine, even though it isn't. You were very sick in bed. Could have been hallucinations. Could have been your mind playing tricks on you. I don't know if you were tired or whatever. I don't know. Personal experience is honestly one of those things. It's one of the biggest reasons why people cling to beliefs in a god. And it was one of the big things for me leaving Christianity and just becoming an atheist. Is some of these, and just not believing in the supernatural. I just don't really believe in the supernatural at all. But there are things that have happened that I've seen. It's like, you know what, that is really, really weird. But does really, really weird automatically equate to it must be God, and it must be this God who, wants me to go to a building once a week. You know, and the problem with it is, one, we never know whose personal experience is honest, and two, a lot of different things can happen with the human brain to make people think they're having an experience when they're not. I'm lost, if you say so. I get that a lot. I'm just lost. I'm fallen. I've been deceived by Satan. It's like, okay, if you say so. Oh, thank you. I didn't even realize you moved to lay up on me. She was just like laying like kind of like next to me, and now she's cuddled up on me. Oh, I'm sorry, phone. The phone yelled at me for not having it vertical. Did I fail this month? I don't know what that means. Life is supernatural. There is no natural explanation for it. We don't have a great explanation for how everything came about. It's weird and it's cool, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's a god. We used to think that the sun rising and setting was something supernatural, and it turns out it's just Earth turning. You're not lost, just looking for a path not paved for you? Maybe. Maybe. What is the right path in life? What are the right answers, really? I mean, obviously, we can see some good and bad. Even from an atheist perspective, we can have an idea of right and wrong, good and bad. But like, when we say like, is this the right thing to do? Is this like the right path? Is this the right career choice, or the right living situation, or the right car to buy, or what does that even mean? And is there necessarily a right and wrong in those scenarios? Or could there be multiple right answers and multiple wrong answers? I just don't know. You just don't know. These comments are smaller. I went to a different website and they're smaller. Everyone has their own path that suits them because everyone is an individual and unique. The one thing in common is that you get to decide what matters and what you want to do. I agree. And that's one of the things Christians say, like, well, what's the point in living if there is no God? First off, if my only two options with the Christian God is eternal torment or following this awful God just so I can bow down to him for the rest of eternity, there is no point. I think life is absolutely pointless if Christianity is real. But if it's not, what's the point? What's the point? What's the point to you? What gets you out of bed each day? What do you like to see? What makes you happy? What do you have that's worth living for? And especially if there is no God or afterlife, this life is the whole point. However many years you get on this planet is however many years you get on this planet, and you don't know how many years you get on this planet. You know, I have two people that I grew up with, my age, that are no longer with us. You don't know how much time you get on this planet. So it makes it so much more precious if there is nothing else. If this is all we get, so much more precious. There's some general tips and tricks, but nothing that applies to everyone universally. Yeah, I agree. Surely, if this whole universe can happen by accident, we should be able to do it on purpose in a lab. Not if we don't understand how it happens. Yeah, billions of years, trillions of planets. It's, I don't, it's weird when people say stuff like, "Why can't we recreate some of the amazing stuff that happens in the universe in a lab?" Buddy, we're not that advanced, first off, and we haven't been as advanced as we are for a very long time. This is stuff that's been going on for billions and billions of years that we don't understand. Just forgive us if we can't reproduce it in a lab in, what are you looking for, 20 years? Just figure it out and produce it in a lab. It's just that easy. And the bells of secret meetings offer them into eternity, and they are forever disappeared inside of urgent madness when they did not make it to God. Maybe. Maybe it's just hell that's waiting for me. I've come to terms with I came to terms with the idea of going to hell when I still believed in hell, when I was still following God, when I was still a devout Christian, when I was still planning on becoming a Christian apologist and studying to be an apologist. Not like any professional study. I didn't go to an oppressive university or anything, but my own studies. And I have a whole video on that as to why hell doesn't bother me. I need to make more videos. I've been a little slow. I've been making a lot of just posts on some of my other platforms, just like written posts on some of my other platforms, and I've done some of them here on YouTube. I need to make it's just time. I don't have time. I do not have time to make content. It's so hard. Even the small short stuff that I do make, it takes more time than I have. Take your time, man. Like I want to do a video giving all of my arguments as to why I'm pro-choice. So I think that's an important video to make in this day and age. What else did I want to make a video about? I want to make a video about something else. What was that? I typed in something today and put it in my notes. Figure it out. Figure it out later. And I love seeing I follow some groups on different platforms of Christian atheist debates, and someone just gave the classic, if Earth was any closer to the sun, we would be vaporized. If it was any further away, we would freeze. Our orbit around the sun is elliptical, meaning it's not a perfect circle, meaning various times throughout our going around our orbit, throughout a year of orbit, go around sun, we do move closer and further by a significant distance. We're if we were even a foot closer, we go so far beyond a foot closer. And it's just like, we don't understand how the universe works. We're trying to figure it out, but it's a lot. And like, what are the odds of life coming about? What are the odds of us of there being a planet? What are the odds of us being here as we are on the planet that we're on? When you're looking at a seemingly infinite universe that is billions of years old, that does a lot of stuff and has a lot of stuff in it, and clearly has the capability, the capacity, is clearly capable of producing life. Especially when you look around and see that a lot of the things needed for life are everywhere in the universe. At least as far as everywhere we look, we keep finding them. Uh, the odds, however small, become almost inevitable. There's the odds of life forming in the universe is, I'm just throwing out a random number. It's 1 in a trillion. There's probably about a trillion planets. There's probably more than that. There's a lot of planets out there, so it just becomes inevitable. And eventually it did. Eventually, there was a planet that formed in a good spot and had the good stuff dumped on it. And life was able to evolve on that planet. And now we think that everything it's just also special and it was made for us and whatnot, and it has to be perfect. It could have been any other planet anywhere else if just the conditions were right. And it might be other planets elsewhere. We don't even have the ability to synthesize the right molecules, nor do we know what molecules we should use to construct a microorganism. We're just not there yet. We're just not there yet. The closest thing we have come to life that we have been able to make is a pulsating liquid, not a life form. Yeah. It's people say, oh, well, how come scientists haven't figured this out yet? It must be a god because scientists haven't figured this out. We are not at the peak of human intelligence or scientific advancement or anything like that. We're just not. We are downright primitive compared to what we could be, and compared to what could be known, what all could be known in the universe. We are no different than people alive in the 1400s or in the 700s. We're just downright primitive. Outside of computers and stuff. Yeah, computers are a whole other thing. I feel sorry for you, Drew. You got a lot to learn. Remember what I told you. Goodbye. Okay, goodbye. You do have a lot to learn. We all have a lot to learn. I was just saying, top scientists don't know hardly anything about the universe because there's just so much to learn. I am nowhere near a top scientist, so I got a lot to learn. Define God. You believe that the Earth is 6 billion years old, no questions asked, because science. Well, science is a little bit more complicated than that. There might have been life that rose and fallen, and time is too great to know if there is anything there. Yeah. As faith, you just don't understand because you trust man over God. You just give up thinking. No. I trust the people who are trying to find answers. And people who can actually predict stuff. Like, we can predict when the next solar eclipse is going to be just by looking at the orbit of the moon and stuff. We can see when it's going to be in the way of the sun. We can land spacecraft on the moon or send stuff to Mars, land stuff on Mars, or land stuff on asteroids in space. We can predict the weather. We can figure stuff out. Science says that when water freezes, it's unique in that its molecules expand rather than contrast, like most things. If you put a cup of water in the freezer, you can test this. There's certain little things that you can test and verify when it comes to science. And you're just kind of going in the chat. I can't keep up with everything that you're saying. You just kind of seem kind of arrogant and just like you know everything. But there's a little bit more than just blind. No, I have nothing to go off of when it comes to a god or anything like that. Nothing to go off of. I do want to know if God is real. I do care. You just trust man, period. You're just trying to dismiss and discredit Just nobody needs to listen to anything that I'm saying. If you can dismiss and discredit me so much that you just don't need to listen to me. I'm just trusting blind studies. I just told you about stuff that you can look up when the sun is going to rise tomorrow. And you can go out at that time and watch the sunrise. Same with the moon. You can track different constellations because people calculate out what when these constellations and when these bodies are going to be visible in the sky. God was created in the minds of man. It kind of seems like it. You just trust man's calculations? All right, buddy, I got nothing for you. I got nothing for you. You are just spam chat, spam chat, spam chat, spam chat. No, you're just having faith in man. You don't even want to know. You don't even know anything. You're just trusting blind faith. And I'm trying to explain stuff to you, and I might not be doing the best job, but it's so much more than just blind faith in science versus blind faith in God. I'm not taking offense. I just You're not here to have an actual honest conversation. Just spamming. Just spamming, 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 spamming. Not insult. That's fine. That's fine. But like, I think you're just you've got you got some positions that you're holding on to, and you're really holding on to them, and that's great. I just hope that you can open your horizons a little bit more, and just maybe entertain the idea that maybe you could have some things wrong, that maybe things aren't as simple as you think. I'm saying science studies, science studies, science studies. Yeah, there are people who are actually trying to figure out how stuff works. I've had what was it? I don't even know what it was, but my chemistry teacher made a solution in a flask and dropped a gummy bear in it, and it just started screaming and spinning in circles and bursting into flames. And he explained what the chemical reaction was to us. He demonstrated that to us. You're trusting man's word for it. It's so much more than that. I have read the Bible. You're just trying to you got your own ideas of stuff, and we all do. But I don't know. So what's wrong in the Bible? I don't know, man. You don't know me. A lot. But I'm honestly, I could have this conversation with anyone but you. And I have these conversations regularly in these live chats. But you just kind of seem set in your way. The entire time I'm explaining stuff, you're just spamming my chat. No, you're just trusting man. No, you just have faith. It's not. You haven't looked at the study. No, you're just not even trying. It's like you're not even trying, man. And it comes to a point where it's just like I don't want to have a discussion with you because you aren't listening to me. I don't think you're listening to anyone but you. And that's not trying to be offensive or anything. I think you just got some really strongly held ideas and beliefs, and I know what that's like. You listen to the Bible, that's great. You got them strong beliefs, and that can be great, but it's just you gotta open up. It's like literally, the chat's probably not going to save over to the YouTube video, but this dude just spamming. You're not answering. It's just nothing. Yeah, I kind of do keep brushing it off as you being closed-minded because I explain stuff and you're just like, no, no, stop. You're just taking on faith. No, you're not. You kind of seem like you are. I'm sorry. You kind of seem like you are. I'm here to have conversations with people who are willing to have a back and forth. There have even been conversations on this life where I've conceded that I don't have the answer, where I've told theists, hey, that's a good point. I don't think it was this life, but, on other lives. I'm not crying. You're here having a fit in my chat. And I'm more concerned than anything. You're one of the nicer critics that I have on a regular basis, commenting and whatnot. What don't you understand about God? You know what? I don't know. Because you were trying to help, you weren't doing a very good job. And you just aren't understanding. So you just spam my chat and tell me to stop and keep throwing away everything that I say. And you just, I don't know. With that, honestly, I usually try to cap these lives out at about an hour. I never do. Because I wish we could have like good, where's this on like the 20-minute mark? It's always like I almost want to like start doing like hour and a half lives or whatever, but I don't have that time. I really don't. Um, Also, just if anyone wants to rewatch the lives, I don't want them to have like the daunting task of having to listen to me ramble for an hour and a half. You know. He is typing very fast. Gotta give him that. He's just spitting. I haven't even seen a typo yet. Well, that don't doesn't have an apostrophe in it, but we'll ignore that. But other than that, I really haven't seen any typos. Just boom, 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 boom. You gave me your Instagram. Okay, cool. I don't usually, if you're trying to like DM me, I don't usually direct message with strangers. That's just dangerous territory that I just don't go into. You never know who you're talking to. But like, if you want to stick around, I usually do these lives every Tuesday night. Usually starting around, it's whenever my daughter goes to bed, so it varies. So usually it's sometime shortly after 9:30. Usually, sometimes like around there, uh, and for like an hour after that. So if you want to like come into another live like earlier on and actually have a conversation and not do what you're doing, you gave me your Instagram. And now I'm just making it weird because I brought up DMing. You just want me to see your face. Yeah, it's just one question, just one. I don't know if you can, dude. What is one thing you don't understand about Jesus? There's no good evidence that he did anything supernatural. Also, I don't think that his sacrifice was a sacrifice at all, because if he's God, then he's spending an eternity in heaven, eternally living it up in heaven. He takes 30 days, 30 years to come down to earth, has a terrible couple of days, dies, and then 3 days later he gets back up again like nothing happened, walks around talking to everyone, lets someone stick their fingers in his wounds like it's a party trick, and then skips back up to heaven. He's fine. He didn't really sacrifice anything, and it seems like it was more of a big egotistical look at me display. So maybe that's something I don't understand about Jesus. Just what did he actually sacrifice? And I don't really know how much longer I want to talk about it with you, because you're just not really. I've been taught wrong. Okay, I've just been taught wrong. The man of flesh was not God. Okay, cool. God is a spirit. The flesh is not God. Okay, so Jesus was not God. So you have your own different version of Christianity, and that's cool. That's cool. Jesus is God. Okay, I don't know what you're saying. I'm just I'm just as confused as you are, Chad. I'm gonna be completely honest with you. A plus on typing speed though, and like I still don't see typos. Like you're just like going, like you probably did good. I hated typing class in school. I was never good at it. I don't want to think. Okay, dismiss, discredit, straw man. You just watch him paint your nails and cry. Dismiss, discredit, straw man. All right. I just, you know, I just not gonna do it, you know? Just not gonna do it. Cause just, wow. I just wanted a moment of silence before we ended the live. You know, I just didn't want him just going off. Chad, I'm so sorry. You have to understand, me hiding people in chat or blocking people is such a last resort. I let I let two somebodies in one of my lives just absolutely abuse me throughout the entire live and only sought to hide them or remove them when they begged me to at the end. You know, I really, 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 really just, I'm open to conversations, I'm open to criticisms, I'm open to understanding. I love hearing stories, I love hearing other evidence, but it was just so much going on there, and I just didn't feel like I was getting anything through. So, he has been hidden. And with that, it is time for me to go. So, thank you everyone for tuning in. Um, yes, woo, freedom. Thank you so much for being here. Uh, for anyone who watched the live, anyone watching this live later on, I don't know what you're doing. You sat down and just watched an hour and 11-minute video about me rambling. That's crazy. But like, shout out to you. I love you so much. But like, why? It's I never understand why people support me or follow me or anything. It's weird. I'm very negative against myself. So it's like, what, you actually like what I'm saying? No, you're weird. You're the weird one. But, you know, no more insulting my followers. But thank you so much. Any amount of support is appreciated. I'm just a random nobody on the internet, so anyone self-esteem needs to go up. So any amount of support is always appreciated. So thank you so much for being here, and maybe I'll see you next week or in other videos or whatever. So, bye.